The way the grant works is you start with a project description, and you only have 3 pages, which is why we do the elevator pitch. Yeah. So you can narrow and tighten the way you think about the monies that you're asking for. You begin with the objective. What is the objective of the project or the program? What is the objective of the music program? I'm sure they have an objective or a mission statement or something that they put in their syllabus that tells you why do they do what they do. Soundtrap is a means to have them meet that objective. So what you want to do with your project, whether it be the theater, the music program, the guitar at Spring Hill Lake, whatever it is, you want to go a bit bigger. What's the objective? Is it appreciation of music? Is it because music has been proven to help children with math and science? I mean, anything that you know, which we all know that there's data and research out there that talks about that, how critical music and the arts are to the hard sciences and math, you should use to build out how you talk about your program. Then you want to talk about the expected impacts. Okay, so I want to do a guitar program in Springfield Lake. They have never had it. What's the impact? I will serve, or it will serve 25 6th graders. And those 6th graders will take their experience in guitar to do X, Y, and Z. You want to tell people in a narrative way why they should fund your program, whatever it is. Whether it's the literacy program, the guitar program, whatever it is your idea. Then you want to say who, and this gets back to our earlier thing. Who is the program trying to serve? You can be, the better is to be as specific as possible. 5th through 8th graders, 2nd and 3rd graders. And Jenny, don't worry, I am going to send the slides, so I don't feel like you have to take tons of notes. Don't worry. And if you're going to serve a part of Greenbelt as opposed to the entire Greenbelt, because as you know, there's East, West, Old, Spring Hill Lake, you really want to be specific with us, because that is one of the things that Greenbelt Community Foundation cares about a lot. We really look holistically at the applications that come in and make sure we are serving all of Greenbelt. That's really important to us. And we really look in every grant cycle. It doesn't always work out that every part of Greenbelt gets covered, but we do our best. So we really do want to know. And you'll notice on the grant application, it asks you to tell them what part of Greenbelt this project serves. And then with the remaining part of the 3 pages, probably the last page, should really be specific about the steps you're going to take to implement the project, so that the people who are going to potentially fund you understand that you understand what it's going to take to make this project come to life. And it's really one tool that I've used a lot, and when I write grants, is use the 5 W's: the who, the what, the where, the when, and the why. If you use them to guide your narrative, you should really be telling the whole story of the project in a nutshell. And so for this application, every grant does it differently. You have up to 3 pages to do so. Does anyone have any questions before I move on? This next page is exactly from the proposal itself. So I'm going to walk through these. Again, the objective.
I have a question.
Oh, please, go ahead.
Are we going to have this presentation? Would you email it to us?
Yep.
Okay, because I missed the 5 who, what, when, and why. I'm missing one. Okay.
Yeah, it's who, what, when, why, and how. Wait, I gotta go
Where,
back to
where.
Thank
Just
you.
Where, there
Where?
you go.
But yes, we're gonna email you the presentation afterwards.
Okay, I got it.
Yeah.
And Brittany asked a great question in the chat, trying to define which section of Greenbelt. If you're not sure, if you're fairly new to the town, or if you're working with a school or something, I told her to email me, email any of us. We're happy to chat through with that, either just Brittany or anybody else who has that question.
Me too.
Yeah.
Okay, we got you, Jenny.
Where is it?
Okay, so here it is again, but let me walk through because this is precisely from the application itself. So the objectives of the project and its expected impact on Greenbelt residents. And again, we are targeting in on Greenbelt residents. So if your program serves more than one community, that's awesome. But what we really want to know about is how are you making an extra effort to serve Greenbelt residents? And oftentimes, I don't remember how many years I was on the board when, we did our grant selection and recommendations, is we would ask programs that serve more than just Greenbelt to really let us know how they're going to know that they're
Please
targeting
go to that thing
outreach.
on the thing.
Sorry?
No.
Oh, okay. That you're targeting specifically Greenbelt residents. And then the who is, we really do want to know the gender, the location, the ages, the best of your ability. Specific steps to be taken to implement the project. For example, if you need to recruit participants, that should be planned for in your program plan. Like, let's say you're notified in July for a program you hope to start in the school year in September. You want to note in your narrative that the first few weeks of school in September, you're going to create flyers, you're going to advertise the guitar program, you're going to, whatever it is you're going to do, the theater, whatever it is, you want to really make sure that we understand the steps you're taking to get your program off the ground. Then how many times a week is it going to meet? For how long? What's the duration? Is this a semester program? Is it a whole year program? Are the children going to meet 2 days a week for 30 minutes? Or is it once a month? Because that will really make us think differently. So we really do need you to paint a picture of your program so that the people, looking at all these different applications can understand enough to want to fund it. That's where, the wording and making it, concrete and making it interesting is important. How will you know you're being effective? If it's not an in-school program, if it's something that participants can or can't attend, they can drop in, they can't, how do you know you're going to make a difference? What are your indicators going to be? An indicator, using grant language, is a measure that you're making an impact. And so we're not asking you to go out and do research on your program, but we're asking you to think about how you will know that you've met your goals that you've set out for yourself. If it's an after-school program and you hope to have 12 participants coming regularly, that's how you know you'll be effective. Maybe you didn't reach 12, but you have 10. But if you only have one, then would want you to think about, geez, what went wrong? Did you not really do the research around the gap? Those are the kinds of things you have to think about. The proposal asks for project timeline, including a start date. So as Carol said, it's about a 12-week process. You'll get the money sometime towards the end of July. What's the length of your project? Is it going to last a whole year? Is it going to last 6 months? Is it a very quick 1-month project? There is no right or wrong, but we need you to tell us when it's going to start, when it's going to end, and the important milestones. So if it's some sort of production that's going to have a theater piece produced, we need to know that in the timeline for a couple of reasons. One, we need to understand how your project works, but also the Greenbelt Community Foundation is very family-like. We go to your productions. We go to theater. I remember I was the liaison for one organization that did theater, that did dance. And I used to go to the production because it was exciting. You know, we had funded it. I live in Greenbelt. I give to the Greenbelt Community Foundation. It's nice to see your money at work. So we want to know that. We might take pictures. We want to be on the sidelines. So we do pay attention to all of these things. And then we require letters of support or memoranda of understanding from partners and other organizations that might be involved in the project. So for the PTSA, for example, we would want some sort of letter of support or memorandum of understanding. And then finally, if it's a project that you hope will last in perpetuity or at least for another year, what plans are you considering for future funding? So are you going after other grant monies in addition to ours? We really encourage you to. As you probably saw from our website, if you've gone on it and looked at the grant application, we don't fund, $50,000 projects. We're a small community foundation that uses the money that the residents of Greenbelt give it. So we give seed money. We give small grants, we give smaller grants. We don't give large grants. And so if you do have an idea of something you'd like to start small and grow, we really encourage you to go after other monies, even while you're, getting off the ground with our grant and our process for your program. Any questions?
Hey, Joni, we got one in the chat that I think Carol would be best served to answer this. Brittany asks, how are funds distributed? So if they were to purchase something from a third-party vendor, Carol, can you explain the process of who we give the money to? Is it the vendor? Is it the program? Can you speak to that? And I might
Sure. Basically, we give the funds to the organization. I mean, they give us a budget and they say like they're gonna, go to a printer and print 1,000 brochures and it's gonna cost $1 per brochure, so I need $1,000 for that. Basically, we give the money to the organization, and the organization pays the vendor. So we don't get in the middle of that. The organization pays the vendor, and then at the end, they report to us, how they spent the money. Does that answer the question?
Brittany, does that make sense?
Okay,
yes,
great.
thank you. I was just, because I know that I'm going to be looking for like instruments, and I'm talking to different vendors right now to get pricing. And so I just wanted to check and see how that process worked. So thank you so much. That was very clear. Thank you.
Good.
Good. And I just want to talk on the two, we've already gone over the last two, but the two bullets on the top. How will you evaluate the project and program? So after it ends, what's your intention of checking that it went the way you thought it would? Are you going to do an evaluation with the participants? Are you going to do some sort of ongoing assessment halfway through to make sure you don't need to pivot or change something that you're doing? What is your plan? And this leads to the other thing. What is your measurement for success? No one expects a project to go perfectly. That's not real world. No one has any, we certainly don't have any sense that that's what happened. But what will be enough for us to say, wow, this was successful. It might be worth repeating. So those are the kinds of questions you really should be thinking about as you build your program with the people you're going to be working with or the institutions. Yeah, what does success look like? How do we know that this is a model that we want to continue or want to do again or look elsewhere for funding? So those are the kinds of things you want to be thinking about for yourself, and then put them in writing so that we can understand, this is the first time we're ever doing guitar. Success would look like 5 students signing up for the guitar lessons. And that's fine. We just really want you to declare what your intention is and what you think success will look like. There is no hard number. or anything. It really is dependent on every program is so different.
How about organizing like a concert at the end for the
Mhm.
for the kids are performing piano or any
Yeah.
other instruments?
Yep, absolutely. That would go on your timeline, and then you could say success would be holding a concert where the children who took guitar lessons performed. Absolutely. Okay. So again, this is from the grant application itself. The organization, you need to list the board members, including officers and terms, a brief history of the organization with recent accomplishments, and then the names, roles, and qualifications of administrators and service providers key to the success of the project. So anyone who's going to be involved or be a teacher or a consultant, you just want to say who they are and the role that they'll play and the qualifications that they have. There's an organizational budget that you need to submit. It has to have income and expense. I don't know, Carol, do you want to talk more to that? Because there's the organizational budget and then there's the project budget, and that oftentimes messes folks up.
Well, say there's a new organization, you're going to put together a budget that might include office and phone and purchasing a desk. I'm just making this up. But that wouldn't necessarily be in the grant because you're just getting the project to organize some group therapy sessions. So the grant would pay for meeting space and marketing for the group therapy, but your organizational budget would also include the office and the phone and this desk. So the organizational budget is the big budget and the project budget is the small piece underneath the organizational budget.
Right.
Andrea asks, if you're new, is it the same? So would we be asking for the new organization's first budget, Carol?
Yes, I mean, if the organization's goal is to have us help them get off the ground, then that would be the organizational budget and the project budget.
Andrea, does that answer your question? Perfect, thanks.
Yeah, and so it isn't very onerous. It's only one page, the project budget. And it's organized by income and expense. You know, you ask for a certain amount from the Greenbelt Community Foundation. You list any other funds that you might have for this project. So let's say, you know, you are also lucky enough to get $3,000 from, I don't know, the Smiths, who you rode up in the elevator with, and they really liked your project. You would list that would also be part of what is funding this project. And if you have a bunch of applications out that you haven't heard of, if something's pending, we just want to know if you're looking for other monies. And so you just note that. Also, any donated or in-kind services that you're going to get. Let's say all the guitar teachers volunteered their time on a Thursday night and they don't want to get paid. You should note that in your project budget, that's in kind, meaning they're donating their time. And then kind of related to what Brittany had asked, you just itemize the expenses you've had against the amount you got from the Greenbelt Community Foundation. And we, you know, ask you to itemize and keep track of it. Yeah. So
Sorry.
how does
Jamie has a quick question for you about the difference between a department budget and the parent teacher student, the PTSA budget.
Yeah, just specifically with what I'm trying to frame these applications, and I'm a little bit confused about how to frame it. So the budget that you're looking for, should I be writing both of them as coming from the PTSA? And so the organization's budget is the PTSA, and then like a
Yes.
different budget for the projects specifically that we're talking about. Okay.
Yes,
And it
exactly.
is okay for me to put in two at one time, two applications? Like one is PTSA theater department, one is PTSA for music department?
My recommendation would be to put both in unless,
Okay.
definitely put both in.
Okay,
We've had that happen before and we have only funded one.
okay,
But they did have put in more than one before.
okay. So that does make sense to just throw them both out there. Okay. All right, thank you.
Yeah, of course. So how does GCF evaluate the proposals? We look at a number of indicators that tells us that this would be a good return on investment, that it is a good use of the Greenbelt Community Foundation donors. I mean, that's part of what we are accountable to. We're our own 501c3. We never used to be, but now we are, thanks to Carol. And so our accountability is to the people who give us money. And so it's very important for us that we look and make sure that the money is being stewarded well, and that we're taking care with the money that the donors are kind enough to give us on behalf of good works in the Greenbelt community. So we look at the value to Greenbelt. You ask for, I'm going to invent, you ask for $68,000 to train 2 tennis players. That doesn't seem like a particularly good value for our money, does it, for this kind of grant fund? Probably not. So we look at that. Is this a good value? Is the plan clear? Did they let us know that there was a gap? We aim to fill it this way, and that we've really done our homework. Here's some research, here's the people I talked to, and I know who I need to serve with this gap that's been identified. Is the plan and the project feasible? Is it doable? Given what I've set out here, do I have enough staff? Is there really enough money? Can I really do all this? Or is it too ambitious? So we look at all of that. We do look at the people who are going to implement the project. Again, this is really tied to value to Greenbelt. Are we going to have a successful project and the children of Greenbelt are going to get X services, or the elders of Greenbelt are going to get this kind of caregiving that we know they need? The likelihood of success, and it's pretty much tied to the feasibility of the approach and the way it's written and the way you tell your story about how this project will change the lives and impact Greenbelt. The appropriateness for GCF support. So please make sure to go back to the grant proposal and the website. Look at past funded organizations, look at past projects, look at the areas we talk about that are important to us. We wouldn't give money for construction. That's not part of our mission. It's not part of what we say we care about. So really look carefully at what we say we care about, because that's going to set you up for getting our money. And then potential for sustainability, if you say that's what you're doing. If you say this is a pilot program and I want to continue it, we'll look at it with the eye towards, is this sustainable? Could this keep going? Will this have traction? Everyone knows that the first time out, projects don't, it's hard. Starting a new project is really hard. I've done it many, many times in many, many places. So thinking about, feasibility, likelihood of success, all those things are really important, and keeping it manageable and small, really, so that you can feel success and the people involved in it will feel success. And we look at each of these categories and weigh them equally. The grant reporting to the Greenbelt Community Foundation is pretty light touch compared to some. There's a final report on the project, and we really urge you to send photos. We love using photos. You have to get releases, of course, with people, but we want them for Facebook. We want them for our website. It's how we speak to the donors and show your good work. Look, your money did this. Your money did that. It's really important, and it's a really useful tool. And then, of course, because we're a 501c3 and we have to have books that are either audited or if we're under a threshold not, we need to keep good accounts of our funds. So it's really important that we can account for the money that we gave you. So that's why we ask you to itemize your expenses and turn them into us so that we can have a good accounting of how the money was used. Okay, I'm getting near the end. It's a Wednesday night and we're all tired after a long day. I just have a list of key takeaways and then we'll be done. So some of the key takeaways, these are a lot of them are gleaned from my many years of reviewing them when I served on the Greenbelt Community Foundation. Fill out the entire application. Please don't leave places blank, because if you leave it blank, we have to go back to you, or we might just discount it. If we have too many applications coming in and you left 4 places blank, we're likely to write you a letter of like, try again. So fill it all out. And if you have any questions, people are so responsive. If you send an email to the email address and the website, they'll get back to you. Be succinct and clear in the narrative and the budget. Tell us what you're going to use, those W's, what you're going to do, who you're going to do it, when you're going to do it, where you're going to do it, and why you're going to do it. If you use those, it'll be clear, it'll be succinct, and you'll tell the story of why this program is so valuable. Have goals and objectives for the program and a plan on how you plan to measure the success. What's the big idea? What's your big goal? What are the objectives? The goal is to, increase youth's ability to, do something with theater. And the objectives are to do 2 plays in the fall of 2021. I don't know, I'm making it up, but, be really clear. This is what the big goal is, and here's our objectives. And we're going to measure the success because we're going to do those 2 plays by the end of 2022. I don't know, whatever. And again, document in your project in writing, pictures, and share with us. And compile all application documents into one document and number each of the pages and follow all the directions. That's often what we get, why it takes us a couple of cycles to be able to finish the funding, timeline, is that we get things that are a little messed up, or there were pieces missing, or we have to go back and ask for letters of support. And it really then kind of makes it more difficult to, release a grant and get going. So the more you can be organized, the more we can be organized. And it's just really helpful to us. Label the document from your organization so that we know who it's from. That's happened before. And write passionately and convincingly about what the issues and gaps your project is addressing or the innovation you are introducing. Why does Greenbelt need this? Why is it important? Why is it important to the people who will be served and impacted? And why should Greenbelt want to embrace this program? What's so unique about it? Be succinct, but write passionately and tell your story. People like a story. I notice a lot of people on Facebook now call themselves visual storytellers. Storytelling has cachet. So tell your story about why your project matters. And again, just the very last thing, because I don't think we can say this enough, the grants are intended to serve primarily Greenbelt residents. And the grant really needs to let us know that. That's all I have tonight. Questions or answers? Comments?
Comment just that it was great, but
Can I ask, so you want to have pictures in advance along with submitting of the grant?
No, that's once you get the grant.
Okay, because
Yeah.
I wouldn't know who are the kids that are going to
Right.
enroll. So
Yeah, no, that's once you're doing the grant, like just taking pictures and sharing them with the foundation. We love to have pictures.
not for the application. Okay.
No.
I would just like to, this is Carol, and I would just like to say, it's very important the who, what, when, where, and why. And I would say the number one reason grants don't get funded is because you aren't real specific. You really don't tell us what you're going to use the money for. And so make sure you have that very clear in your grant application.
I have a question about if I'm putting both of these applications forward as the PTSA, but two departments, would it be possible for you all to fund both of them in the same cycle, or you would have to choose just one for the cycle, or does it depend on the amount of money for each
We
one?
just discussed that recently at the board, and it depends on the applications that come in, and
Okay.
depends on, you know, we've never really funded two, but that's because only one grant was good enough to fund, not because we said, oh, we're getting two from
But
two departments.
So it wouldn't automatically disqualify us?
No, it wouldn't.
Okay, okay. And is it once every year, your rule that you can, when the grants are awarded?
Well, April 15th and October 15th, we have 2 years, 2 times a year. And if you're in a current grant cycle, then you cannot get another grant until you've finished and given your final report.
Oh, okay, okay, thank you.
So basically, you know, Stephanie, do you want to close this
Yeah,
out and say,
perfect. Well, thank all of you, ladies, for joining us this evening. I put in the chat, we really do want to fund your great Greenbelt projects. They're awesome. I know in the small breakout room I was in, they all sounded fantastic. So we really want to fund them. We can't wait to see your applications. It's the most fun. It's how Carol convinced me to jump in and join the board because they're so wonderful and I love hearing about them. So make sure the applications make it easy for us to say yes. We want to say yes. That's the goal. So let us know if you have any questions. You're going to get an email from us with the PowerPoint that Joni put together. If you have any other questions, we'll make sure you've got our Greenbelt email address. Our personal email addresses are kicking around as well. So if you have any questions, let us know. Let us help you in advance so we can then say yes to your grant. All right. Joni, thanks for leading us through this tonight.
You're most welcome. Really enjoy it. Good luck to everyone. I can't wait to hear about your projects.
Awesome. Have a great night, everyone.
thanks, Joni.
Thank you.
Good night. Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.